Bro.
A small price to pay for salvation.
Hi guys, this video is sponsored by Outerspace's ass. I am kidding, there's no ad, please don't skip this. So, Jade, a lot of people have different opinions about her. Me? Well, I find her interesting, especially spoiler alert, as she was the one that helped to free Sunday. But more questions just started to appear. Why her? Just how relevant is she to the plot? So being the nosy person I am, I went into a rabbit hole of understanding Jade's relevance, and oh boy, I felt like the writers really cooked on this one. This is going to be a short, hopefully, analysis on my own findings, from her philosophical values, her character as an inspiration from the Bible, and a philosophical standpoint. So get seated and prepare yourself for another yapathon. As a disclaimer, this video is not intended to dictate how you should view the character of Jade. Instead, the goal is to encourage deeper reflection on complex characters and to consider the lessons they can teach us about our own lives. Let the cooking begin. Although Jade has only appeared a few times in quests and in her trailer, a lot has actually been revealed about her and how she operates. On the surface, she seems cunning and alluring with whatever kink y'all are on. But trust me, she's much more than that. And it's easy to overlook just how perilous she truly is. It feels like she has intentionally crafted her persona to make us underestimate her. Jade is often described as skilled at understanding the human heart. But what does this truly mean? Does she know our wishes, our deepest secrets, or our guilty pleasures? Not exactly. In fact, it's something more general, yet often overlooked. Jade understands that human desires are endless and self-perpetuating. Put simply, our desires have the ability to persist and renew indefinitely. She uses this knowledge to her advantage, offering to fulfill these desires in exchange for significant personal sacrifices. This insight makes her an ingenious businesswoman, able to capitalize on the unending cycle of human ambition. Jade emphasizes that everything comes at a cost. She operates on a principle of equivalent exchange, believing that everything in existence has measurable value and can be used in transactions. This includes not only material possessions, but also intangible assets like emotions, relationships, and even how one should dedicate their life to certain pursuits. Although it seems like she is simply exchanging these intangible commodities to make people's ambitions come true, what Jade truly exploits is the core desire within each person. The most obvious example of the desires that humans easily succumb to is the pursuit of material wealth.
Wealth is the recipe to happiness.
Jade's mocking tone and the ultimate fate of those who seek her services suggest a critique of materialism. Although the idea of pursuing happiness through material wealth may not hold true, many people still succumb to it without even realizing. By calling it a recipe, she makes fun of this idea, suggesting that people are naively chasing something that might not bring them true fulfillment. So, is this a good or a bad thing? Before we delve into the complexities of morality, let's first tackle the million-dollar question. What does she actually do? She runs a mysterious business where people can trade anything as collateral, even the intangible desires of her clients. This business is called Bona Jade Exchange. Here's how it works. As mentioned earlier, Jade offers her clients the opportunity to achieve their deepest desires, whether it's wealth, power, or personal success. She entices them with promises that seem too good to be true, and in return, she asks for something of equal value. Before accusing her of running a scam, it's important to recognize that she doesn't simply grant people's wishes easily. Her business strictly operates on the principle of equivalent exchange.
If one wishes to obtain something, something of equal value must be given. This is the law of equivalent exchange.
A little sidetrack here. Let's rewind and notice the caduceus-like symbol in her trailer. The caduceus, featuring two serpents entwined around a winged staff, is often mistaken for the rod of Asclepius, which has a single serpent and is the true medical symbol. In the trailer, instead of the original wings, a human figure with open arms suggests a pose of offering or sacrifice, with thorns wrapping around the figure as a symbol of suffering. The caduceus is the staff of Hermes, the Greek messenger god. Hermes, also known as Mercury in Roman mythology, was renowned for his roles in trade, communication, and negotiation. As the messenger god, Hermes facilitated not just divine messages, but also transactions and exchanges among mortals. This directly ties to Jade's role, where she mediates complex transactions involving her client's deepest desires. This brings us back to our topic on fair trade in Jade's business. To give an example, we have seen that Firefly's desire to keep on living cannot be granted by Jade at this time because she lacks an equivalent exchange. As a Stellaron hunter and a remnant of Glamoth's Iron Cavalry, Firefly's existence is precarious. Despite Firefly's willingness to sacrifice everything, she realizes that
It's no wonder you said I can't provide anything of equal value. Because nothing I own holds any meaning.
this is because Firefly is also seeking the meaning of her existence.
Why do we die? Why do we live?
Without understanding why she wants to keep on living, she cannot find something of equal value to offer. The only asset she considers meaningful enough is her own life, which paradoxically is what she seeks to preserve. Firefly cannot offer her life in exchange for her life. This case underscores the high costs and sacrifices involved in Jade's transactions, illustrating the true price of fulfilling deep desires.
I'm sorry.
However, these are several examples of exchanges that has happened before based on her profile. A beautiful dancer sought eternal beauty from Jade, trading portions of her lifespan. She repeatedly regained her youth, but the cost grew unbearable. Ultimately, she left in despair, never to return. Next, a soldier from a fallen country traded all his emotions for vengeance. He became a war machine, destroying his enemies, but remained trapped in his past. The devastated lands fell under IPC control, illustrating the consequences of his revenge. Lastly, a couple from Baviru traded their memories for wealth. They lived contentedly, only to forget everything in the end. While she provides solutions, the true price of these desires reveals the inherent consequences of their pursuit. The immediate fulfillment of their wishes masks the long-term costs, revealing the profound impact of their choices. While Jade's transactions often stem from personal ambitions of vanity, power, and wealth, they are sometimes driven by desperate circumstances. One such encounter took place in the Silver Chain Galaxy, where a rare storm threatened to obliterate everything in its path. I will bring peace to the Silver Chain Galaxy. As for the price, I want the entirety of you. You will become the IPC's agent in the Silver Chain Galaxy. From this moment on, every huff of your breath and every minute of your life will contribute to the Amber Lord's great cause until the very end of your life. Jade's willingness to save the Silver Chain Galaxy at such a high personal cost highlights the duality of her character. On one hand, she provides a solution to a dire problem, showing a potential for aid and benevolence. On the other hand, the cost of her help, requiring the young woman to become an IPC agent, reveals the profound sacrifices required. As an IPC agent, the young woman must follow a path of preservation to ensure the planet's safety. This could be seen as a pursuit to maintain peace and order. However, it can also be interpreted as a way for the IPC to infiltrate and control the planet's governance. But this is already going to start a deep rabbit hole about the IPC, so let's save it for another day. But in relation to the IPC, her case with Aventurine is no different to how she regularly operates in the JADE exchange. Long story short, the moment she understood Aventurine's intentions to buy himself his own freedom, she grabbed this golden opportunity to entice his desire even further.
30 Tombas. I'll give you that. And much more than that. Wealth, status, power,
The IPC will give you whatever you want, even what you don't want.
Jade's offer for a better alternative demonstrates how humans are always striving for more than they currently have. She believes that given the opportunity, people will choose to push their limits and seek greater success, even if it comes with additional costs.
Guess what they choose in the end?
She demonstrates her confidence in the predictability of human choices. When given options, people consistently choose the path that promises greater rewards and success. Once again, this reveals her belief that humans are driven by an inherent desire for advancement and improvement. But this is where the perspective becomes more complex. While Aventurine might escape the punishment for his crimes and gain not just a job, but also status and power within the IPC, recognizing his talent as Jade did, there's another way to look at it. The consequence of his desire to be free from his past is losing his freedom to act on his own behalf.
Perhaps you ought to represent yourself.
Now he's bound to the IPC, tied to a new set of obligations and restrictions. Yet this is also debatable regarding the true meaning of his freedom. However, my main point here is to highlight how Aventurine's example best illustrates the different perspectives on Jade's offers and aid. Depending on the perspective, Jade can be seen as a benefactor or a manipulator. Some clients achieve their goals and see her as a savior, while others find themselves trapped and exploited. This ethical ambiguity is central to her character as she operates within the blurred lines of good and evil. Despite it all, she remains indifferent. By viewing everything as a commodity, Jade maintains a level of detachment from traditional moral and emotional considerations. And now we're back to square one. Should we accept her actions as serving the deserved consequences of greed? Or should we start lighting our torches and pitchforks because she's ruining people's lives when they should be given a better chance? Well, what if I tell you? There is another perspective, like a secret third thing. Yeah. Have you ever wondered why Jade's character is so deeply inspired by the Bible? The most obvious reference would be her very own splash art. The apple is a direct reference to the forbidden fruit in the Garden of Eden, symbolizing temptation and the pursuit of forbidden knowledge. And here we see a large, sinuous serpent coiling around the tree. This serpent is reminiscent of the one that tempted Eve, representing deceit and the manipulation of desires. The lush pink blossoms on the tree create a serene yet mystical atmosphere. This tree symbolizes the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Notice the scattered treasures at Jade's feet: gold coins, jewels, and riches. These symbolize earthly desires and greed, reflecting how humans are often tempted by material wealth, leading them away from spiritual fulfillment. Finally, the figure that is reaching out to Jade. This figure represents humanity's susceptibility to temptation and the allure of promises offering more than what is rightfully theirs. In many ways, Jade mirrors the serpent in the Garden of Eden. Just like the serpent exploits Eve's curiosity and desire, Jade exploits the deepest desires of those who seek her aid, offering them what they crave, but at a significant cost.
The 3 steps of negotiation: listen, test, and strike. That's what you taught me.
Topaz mentions how Jade operates with a keen sense of awareness and observation. First, she carefully listens to understand the desires, fears, and rules that others follow. In Genesis chapter 3, verses 1 to 5, we see the serpent's deception of Eve as a powerful analogy for understanding Jade's manipulative tactics. Genesis chapter 3 verse 1 emphasizes the serpent's craftiness, much like Jade's ability to understand and exploit human desires for personal gain. The serpent's question, "Did God really say you must not eat from any tree in the garden?" introduces doubt and curiosity in Eve's mind. Just as the serpent begins by understanding the context of God's command to Eve, Jade gathers critical information about her targets, ensuring she knows what motivates and constrains them before making her move. This is evident in Aventurine's case and her negotiation with Old Oti, the head of the Alfalfa family, where she first listens to his conditions before striking with her plan. Jade then tests the boundaries and beliefs of those she aims to manipulate. She engages them in conversations that probe their understanding and commitment to their own principles. By identifying any uncertainties or potential points of flexibility, Jade assesses how far she can push her targets. Similarly, Genesis chapter 3 verse 2 shows Eve's response to the serpent, revealing her awareness of God's command. This awareness represents the innate recognition of rules and moral guidelines that govern behavior, signifying a conscience and internal moral compass in human nature. However, the serpent's cunning inquiry plants seeds of doubt, making Eve question the restrictions imposed on her. This mirrors how Jade's manipulations by offering a better alternative often lead her clients to reconsider their limitations and explore forbidden possibilities. It highlights the duality within human nature, the struggle between adhering to established norms and the temptation to explore beyond them. Finally, when the time is right, Jade strikes with a compelling proposal or argument. She presents an enticing offer that challenges the existing beliefs and boundaries of her targets, promising them greater benefits. In Genesis chapter 3, verses 4 and 5, the serpent blatantly contradicts God's warning, promising Eve enlightenment and godlike knowledge. This temptation is strikingly similar to Jade's offers of greater wealth and success, which seem to promise fulfillment and empowerment. However, just as the serpent's promise leads to Eve's downfall, Jade's propositions often result in the eventual ruin of those she deceives. Similarly, when we look back at the verses, we see that Eve didn't eat the fruit out of hunger. She ate it because she believed it would grant her knowledge and power. Eve's decision to eat the forbidden fruit is motivated by a desire for something beyond basic needs. The message from the Bible is clear, implying that humans will always be like this, the drive for more, even when basic needs are met. The idea that desires arise from inherent human nature rather than necessity is a critical insight. It suggests that greed, ambition, and defiance are intrinsic to humanity. Moreover, Eve did not just suddenly decide one day to eat the fruit. She was tempted by the serpent. The serpent's role in tempting Eve highlights the susceptibility of humans to external influences. This is directly relevant to Jade's character, who adeptly manipulates and persuades her clients, exploiting their inherent weaknesses and desires. Jade's presence in the final act of Sunday's grand scheme retells these events from the Bible. She embodies the serpent, or precisely an agent of temptation, whispering to those who seek fulfillment beyond their means. Her manipulation isn't simply about exerting control. It's about revealing the latent desires that lie within her clients. In this context, Jade's interaction with Robin becomes pivotal. And here's where it gets interesting. Robin actually comes to Jade first, highlighting how Jade acts more as a catalyst for the desires and doubts already brewing within her clients, rather than just imposing her will from the outside.
I didn't find the information. It came to me. It was from a lady concerned with the future of the Harmony. In return, I've agreed to help her with something.
Robin, driven by her vision for a brighter future, sees in Jade not just a manipulative force, but a gateway to her own unfulfilled aspirations. Their exchange subtly echoes the ancient narrative. Just as the serpent offered Eve knowledge, Jade offers Robin the promise of something greater in exchange for freeing Sunday.
Where do you think the future of the planet of festivities is headed?
I believe the sweet dream will see its rebirth. Just like the radiant feldspar resumed its voyage, the Harmony needs a new direction. Only by bidding farewell to the past can we actually sail into the future. There are no permanent allies or everlasting enemies, so let's both take what we need from this deal.
Jade's question about the future of the planet of festivities and Robin's response about rebirth and new direction underscore her desire for change and progress. In essence, Robin is ready to embrace the opportunity Jade presents, driven by her hope for renewed harmony. Sunday, who represents a figure of transformation and maturity, resonates with 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 11.
我らが幼子であった時には、幼子らしく語り、幼子らしく感じ、また幼子らしく考えていた。しかし大人となった今は、幼子らしいことを捨ててしまった。
Sunday's character reflects deeply on his own growth and transformation, striving to become an advocate of Shibe and the lone star that remains awake for order. Being held captive, Jade tempts him with the opportunity to fulfill his promise of creating a paradise, appealing to his deeply held beliefs and dreams. Despite Sunday's steadfastness and devotion, the allure of realizing his vision is powerful. He doesn't immediately reject Jade's offer, showing the internal struggle and the slow erosion of his resolve. Sunday's example illustrates the timeless truth that desire, even for the noblest of goals, can lead to succumbing to temptation. It's not merely greed or ambition at play, but the inherent human inclination towards temptation and fulfillment of one's deeper desires. The inspiration from the Bible justifies Jade's role as the tempter, underscoring how external influences can awaken latent urges, leading even the most composed and pure individuals to consider paths they once thought unthinkable.
As long as the influence of harmony hasn't completely permeated their core, personal desires will always have their way. Thankfully, influential figures in Penacony haven't entirely suppressed their own desires.
And as for Sunday, this scene perfectly concludes his previous ideals. To fulfill his wish, he had to relinquish his authority, not because of the status itself, but due to his deep-seated obsession with control, which he valued above all else. It was this control that he treasured most, and letting it go was the necessary sacrifice he had to make to achieve his ultimate goal. This new perspective opens a new way of thinking. We understand that what she exploits, which are our own desires, are endless and inevitable, and that we easily fall into the traps of temptations in given circumstances. Rather than simply determining where Jade fits within the blurred lines between good and evil, much like the knowledge promised to Eve, we should focus on how to confront situations and people like Jade and overcome the traps of manipulation and temptation arising from our unchecked ambitions. If you think you haven't met a Jade yet in your life, you might be mistaken.
No, I can't laugh yet. I've got to hold it in.
This analogy is incredibly relevant in today's modern world, especially as technology and media act much like Jade. These platforms and advertisements are designed to exploit our psychological tendencies towards continuous engagement and stimulation. They tempt us with endless scrolling, notifications, new content, and impulsive purchases, creating a never-ending cycle of desire until it takes a toll on us physically, mentally, and financially. But how do we confront these sorts of situations, though? Bear with me. First, let's connect these biblical references to broader philosophical beliefs. Interestingly, these biblical insights on our innate, endless desires align with other philosophical ideas. For example, Schopenhauer's concept of the will to life suggests that this constant striving is a universal aspect of human nature. Will is always striving, because striving is its only essence and is not brought to an end by reaching any goal. It is therefore not capable of any ultimate satisfaction. Obstacles can only detain it, while in itself it goes on to infinity. Schopenhauer posits that the underlying essence of all reality is a blind, irrational force he calls the will. Our body's experiences are influenced by our will, as it is called pain when it is contrary to the will, and it is called comfort or pleasure when it is in accordance with the will. For example, satisfying hunger with our cravings brings pleasure and comfort, while not eating or eating undesirable food leads to discomfort and pain. Similarly, accidentally stepping on a Lego causes pain because it is an action that is against your will. The will to life is characterized by endless striving and a perpetual cycle of desires. Satisfying one desire only leads to the emergence of new ones, resulting in continuous discontent and suffering. Then, are we all stuck in this world just to suffer? No, not really. There are different solutions for temporary relief. The first response is our natural instinct to end suffering by attaining what we lack, such as earning money to meet our basic needs and interests, which can escalate into other forms of escapism. This is also illustrated through Jade's offers to her clients, which promise ways to go further and climb higher, providing temporary satisfaction and the illusion of progress. However, these solutions only lead to deeper entanglement in the cycle of desire. Desire can be a double-edged sword. On one hand, desire drives us towards the things we want, but on the other hand, even when we get what we want, the satisfaction is temporary. We've all heard people say, "If I achieve this, I will be happy." But unfortunately, that happiness doesn't last forever. We achieve our goal, and while the desire and the initial excitement disappear, a new kind of restlessness sets in. It's like, I got what I wanted, but now what?
Interesting, don't you think? I fulfill people's desires and grant them favors, and soon they come back to me with even greater desires. When people see others' desires get fulfilled, they develop their own desires. It seems like an endless cycle, but it does have a goal. In the end, I will get what I desire from this whirlpool.
In contrast, the second option of relief is Schopenhauer's belief that real peace comes from letting go of our desires altogether. Now, not everyone can practice asceticism and live like a monk to completely give up our desires, but Schopenhauer offers some practical solutions. First, he suggests that we can find temporary relief through aesthetic experiences, like enjoying art and music. These moments allow us to rise above our individual desires and experience something greater. According to Schopenhauer, beauty is the essence of art. When we have an aesthetic experience, we don't just see an object in its material reality. Instead, we contemplate the idea of the thing, which exists beyond space and time and isn't bound by natural causality. The contemplation of beauty suspends our will, freeing us from our endless desires and the suffering they bring. For instance, think about when you're watching a beautifully crafted movie or a visually stunning scene in a video game. I am not talking about scenes that make you go gyat, envy, or rage. It's scenes where you're so immersed, making you detach from your will because you're not driven by any personal desire to own or control what you're seeing. Instead, you're appreciating it for its beauty and creativity. Similarly, when you listen to a powerful piece of music, you're not thinking about any specific wants or needs, but are instead engaged in pure, will-less contemplation. These experiences allow us to take what Schopenhauer calls a holiday from the servitude of willing. In essence, art helps us detach from the material world and our individual desires, providing a temporary respite from the tyranny of the will. Second, he emphasizes the importance of ethical behavior, living with compassion. Remember how we talked about Schopenhauer's concept of the will to life as the root of all suffering? It's that fundamental drive in all of us to keep living and reproducing, which underlies all of reality. Schopenhauer saw this will as present in everything, humans, animals, and even inanimate objects. This means everything is interconnected and essentially the same, making reality one unified whole. Because of this interconnectedness, Schopenhauer argued that it makes perfect sense to treat all beings with compassion. When we're compassionate to others, we're essentially being compassionate to ourselves because at the deepest level, everything is part of the same will. When we act compassionately, we shift our focus away from our own desires and needs. Instead of being consumed by what we want or what we lack, we become more concerned with the well-being of others. This shift in perspective reduces the power that our personal desires have over us. We start to see the bigger picture, recognizing that our individual wants are just a small part of a larger interconnected reality. These solutions are a more detailed explanation of the phrase touching grass. While we might not be able to abandon all desires, we can find ways to manage them and experience a bit of relief from their grip. So, is Jade evil? That is up to you to decide. However, one thing we can all agree on is that she is extremely dangerous and serves as a catalyst for self-awareness. Her actions and the consequences faced by her clients serve as a mirror for us to examine our own motivations and desires. What would you do if you were tempted to rely on Jade's certainty to save yourself or your loved ones when they are in danger? Of course, not all of us have faced dire life or death situations where we must choose between saving ourselves and going against our moral judgment. However, we've all experienced moments of temptation driven by personal desires and have regretted those decisions at least once. Think about it. How many times have we chosen to scroll through social media instead of studying for an important exam? Or stayed up late binge-watching a series only to feel exhausted the next day? Or what about that character you pulled out of FOMO and now benched forever?
Guilty.
Another relatable example is getting into an argument like whether Jade is good or bad, or the circumference of Boot Hill's non-existent ass on social media to relieve frustration or feel a sense of satisfaction. In the heat of the moment, it might feel good to vent our anger or prove a point, but later regret the harsh words and damaged relationships. Plus, arguing online is often futile because it rarely changes anyone's mind and instead just amplifies negativity. Most of the time, people involved in these arguments are more interested in winning the debate rather than understanding different perspectives, which leads to a cycle of hostility and misunderstanding. And that is how Jade has already trapped us in her scheme of desire exploitation, leading to our downfall as a civil society. So we must always stay vigilant. I know it ain't that deep, but there's a lot of moral value to take away from this, reminding us of the importance of self-awareness and restraint. That is all for now. I will see you in the next full moon.